All right, good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 on Monday, October the 7th. My name is Robert Stevenson. I'm the chairman of the school committee. I'm going to be looking to bring to order the regular meeting for the Central Valley Granville Regional School District this evening. Can I get a motion entering in the meeting?
Someone. Second.
Can I get a show of hands entering the meeting? Aaron, let the record show that that motion passes 7-0-0. 3-4-6-0-0. Sorry, I'm missing somebody. All right, can I get everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, consent agenda. We've got our consent agenda. Then we've got some home education proposals, out of state field trip, some fundraisers. This is our speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, warrants. We got a couple warrants here. If you guys can make sure that we sign all those before the end of the evening, that way they can get paid. Superintendent Willard, do we have any correspondence this evening?
I do not.
Awesome. Magnolia, we are at the most exciting part of our meeting, so I'm gonna hand it off to you.
Awesome. So I'll start off with SRO Olson's presentation on writing for the high schoolers. I am not usually there in the morning, so I talked to the PAC members and they found that it was very impactful on the students. And everyone felt a bit more connected to our SRO since he is pretty new. Students left with more understanding that they build a lot of power with the vehicles that they drive and learn some tips on how to stay safe. The NHS induction ceremony will be held on Tuesday, October 29th, and we're inducting 19 juniors. The middle school has approximately bi-weekly team meetings, explicit instructions for SEL, team building exercises where they can apply their learning together in like group orientation. So the most recent example, they were in teams and had to work together to win a Kahoot on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader. And this Friday, they're gonna work together to build some forts in the woods in the back of the high school. Connection sent out some applications, surveys to grades 9 to 12, and we're looking forward to new members. Tomorrow, October 8th, during first and third lunches, the town clerk's office will be hosting a voter registration drive with the help of Mr. Classen, the Twin City government classes. I'm personally very excited for this. I don't know what my class is, but probably not. He's also working on getting us to work the polls on election day. Not many people wanted to until they heard that you get paid for it. We're having an ASVAB test on Friday, October 25th for grades 10 to 12, PSAT not for 16. We sent senior photos, club photos, and sports photos to Mrs. Trasco ASAP. They sent out an email to parents because students are very good at sending these in themselves. We have an upcoming field trip to the ACM Future Workforce Opportunities Fair on the 31st. We have a number of colleges and universities visiting this month for juniors and seniors. And on the 9th, all SRS students will participate in the belonging survey, and you can find more information on the SRS website under families and SRS updates.
SAD's beginning an anti-drug, alcohol, and nicotine campaign that will consist of billboards, posters, and by prom time we'll be having TSAs, so we'll have break off groups and then we'll share it with TSAs as well. That goes along with the Stop the Swerve event. Thursday is World Inclusion Day. Everyone is invited to wear orange. Northeastern will be presenting at the end of the month addressing hate in schools on the 30th.
Yes, I recall having this Sunday. Sports, girls soccer is 8-1, and they're 12th place in MIAA rankings. Boys soccer have their senior night game tomorrow at Wally Park, 7 p.m. versus Mahar. Cross country, they have a game tomorrow at Palmer, and their senior night is on 15th. Field hockey, their MIAA rankings is 44, which is pretty good. Not as good as soccer, but they're currently 9-4 win losses, which is a pretty good improvement for them. They have their senior night this Friday. Girls volleyball is actually having their breast cancer game up on the hill right now. They've had a pretty good season. They're versus East Long Meadow tonight, and the Booster Club is having a meeting as well at the library, right now, and then they have another one on the 21st at 5 p.m. That's all I have.
Yeah, this week's big week for soccer. They play Munson tomorrow at home.
Mhm.
And then we play Northampton in Northampton on Thursday. It's the only team that's beat us. And they're 12th in the state and they are #1 in Western Mass for their section right now. So if the playoffs were to start today, we were ranked #1, which I don't know the last time when that happened. So it's been a while.
Well, hopefully we'll be good this week.
Awesome.
They probably
Yeah,
will.
If we can win one, if we can win two, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so educational presentation. We have a number of people here tonight. We're gonna start with Deputy Chief Jessica Bishop from the fire department.
Hi. Deputy Chief Jessica Bishop, Southwick Fire. Today I wanted to kind of review and complete kind of an ominous for school bus related incidents and EMS. So, all surrounding towns near us have a very similar policy. Unfortunately, I was working with a guy that will no longer speak of, Mr. Bell. And when we were working on that, he did gather information from the relevant towns near us. So just in its simplicity, what I've given you is what the sheet looks like should there be an incident with a school bus. The following 2 pages are part of our Massachusetts state protocol. So EMS is a kind of a strange field. So I work for the Southwick Fire Department, who works for the town of Southwick. But on my actual boss is a medical control doctor from Bay State Hospital. So he is my true boss. I work for the chief works for the town, all of that still is a thing, but when it comes to anything that has to do with being on the ambulance or responding to a call, he is our end all say all of what we can and cannot do. That being said, Mass state protocols are statewide protocols that there is no bend, there is no gray, what is written is what is. That leads us into a kind of a weird scenario. Should there be a minor incident on a school bus? Okay, we all know if the school bus backs into a tree, the fire department is getting called because that's the right thing, right? You want to make sure that you followed all of your right channels. It's a minor bump. There is no injury to a child. The law says, if you have called my ambulance, I need a signature from every single parent of that child to say that they can leave. Minors are what we call implied consent. They cannot refuse treatment or transport. And I cannot tell a minor that it does not need treatment or transport. So what we're looking to do essentially is just reiterate the invoked, and I always say it wrong, and loco parentis that already exists. So you have a contract with your school bus company. Once those students are on the school bus, they belong to the school bus company, that driver, while they're en route to here. Once they're here, they belong to you. Common practice would be that if there was to be an incident that we got called to, a member, whoever the designee from the school system would come out. The school bus driver would be there, and obviously I would be there, or the chief would be there. Captain, lieutenant, whoever is going to be the person in charge at that moment is there. And essentially all we're saying is that to avoid keeping that process going until 5 o'clock at night, say, waiting for every single parent, that essentially we would list the students that were on the bus, and it would be one signature from the representative from the school. So it's like I said, it's common practice. We just didn't have a form in place, and I want to make sure that should it ever happen, that we do. So might have been January, an Agawam school bus was turning around at the top of the hill.
Yeah. She
turned around, no accident, she just slid when she was turning and she bumped into a tree. So we get called and I'm like, oh no. And then I got there and it was an Agawam bus and I was like, oh yes. Their head of transportation came out, a representative from the school came out, we filled out a sheet like this, it's signed, and that's the process. You guys obviously have gotten your whatever way we were calling it for the updated emergency medical plans. This I kind of wanted to bring up now while it's in that, so. In that same vein, we've had every discussion with the safety committee that, even if there is. A minor, a kid who slid out of the seat or something, at that point, we would note that. Tell the school representative, when they get to school, please have the students check in with the nurse, which is also very common practice because the nurse has. That medical authority with the kids once they're here. So that's really all, if I can answer any questions or if it doesn't make any sense.
So if we have something where there's an incident and even if they're bumping into a tree, somebody gets dislodged from their seat and fractures their arm.
Mhm.
So we've got one child that's injured, everybody else is fine, everybody else goes on this list, the
Yeah.
one child that's
Yep,
injured.
anybody
goes
who
to the
needs
hospital.
treatment or transport will be
Okay.
like a normal patient, just as in any other situation.
So if this happened in the Granville Gorge,
Mhm,
across the town line,
mhm.
do you get called or does Granville get called?
So we are Granville's ALS service, so chances are we would be
Okay,
absolutely dispatched to that
So-
call without.
what happens if it's one of the 4 or 5 kids up in Tallinn? If there's an accident up there and they're in Tallinn's town limits,
So Granville is responsible for Talon's EMS and we're responsible for Granville's EMS.
so we do everything.
Yeah, we're kind
That was
of,
gonna be my question, this is
Yeah.
the first time I've ever seen this sheet. So really, the nice thing is for our district, it's one sheet for all 3 towns.
you got it. That will cover everything, so, like I said, I just attached the protocol, just basically saying that a minor can't refuse.
We don't need to approve this, right?
No.
Yeah, that was my next
It's
question.
informational. I'd just like to let you know that
No,
we're
no.
changing a practice, and so we'll be in the minutes, and so our parents can know that this is going to be a change in practice.
Is it, I guess here's a question, because it probably should be if it isn't. Is it part of our policy?
I was gonna ask that question as well.
No, this isn't in the policy.
Right, I think there was discussion back and forth in our safety meetings regarding this. It is kind of, it falls more on us than it does you guys. It's,
No, understood,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm just thinking it might, and maybe we could talk to Liz and Fun about this. Is there a policy that should be in our district policy manual that says EMS or whatever, incident in a bus or some sort of on transportation?
Or the procedure and it.
But I mean, we have
Yeah.
checked with Liz, it could be something as simple as,
it can be, it's anybody, so like the, actually,
it
Agawam.
could just be something
I
as.
showed up that morning.
Right, and
I
you
was
saw how
there.
smooth it was.
It was so smooth.
Yeah,
And,
it's-
it was Rob Clickstein. He was the business
Yeah.
manager over in Agawam and he was there before anybody was
Yeah.
there. And LP Beck had a representative there too that showed
Right,
up.
because
even
that's
before
their,
him.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming honestly that once we say like, this is gonna be what we're doing, you
Yeah.
would get a hold of whoever you deal with for whoever is in charge of the southward portion of the bus, that you could say, hey, just an FYI, this is the expectation that should we have an incident.
Policies or anything else is why. I just-
Now, I know that,
I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm just thinking back, we did have a serious bus accident in Springfield where all the parents had to
Yep.
come out because because we don't have anything like this, that is our common practice, every parent had to come out to the bus to pick up their kids. So,
And I guess maybe the hardest part of the ask, right, when you're gonna, policy or procedure or anything, is that nothing covers 100%, right?
No,
This
understood.
is not a serious bus accident. This is the 99%. The guy backed out of his driveway and hit the bus. The bus backed up and bumped the tree. Those kinds of things, because fully understand, we know that there's thankfully very unlikely that there's gonna be a medical emergency, but yes, we understand that we're gonna get called because if it was my kids, I would want you to tell me that you had somebody come.
Yeah.
So this just kind of blanket covers that whole thing. We talked about it even down to the fact if kids are going to an away game and something happens, right? Each town kind of has something very, very similar to this, because that very same thing could happen. You could be out in, I don't know, Mount Greylock,
that's what my next question was.
right, and you back into a tree and they, oh, we gotta call EMS. When they come out, they're gonna show up with something like this.
Mhm.
And we just, up until now, hadn't had pen to paper on the form And I just wanted to put
We
everybody,
need to have something just in case Mount Greylock's coming here.
yeah, exactly, but I just wanted to, you know,
I
make,
get you.
put us all on the same page.
Yep.
I'm thinking we might not be policy, maybe we could do an MOU, talk to chief, because I think when he first started here, because I know I think he came to me about this being done in Granby where he was.
Yep.
I don't know, for some reason, I could be totally wrong, I thought he had like an MOU.
We can write, that's what I mean, so
That-
putting
yeah.
paper to pen, that's up to you guys, it's how you guys want to
Yeah,
adapt
that, I
it.
think it would make.
I'm gonna call Liz LaFawn. She'll be able to tell us whether any other districts do this or how they deal with it. It might be something as simple as there's a policy in our policy book.
Yeah.
That just says, this is what we refer to, and bingo, we're gonna follow this. I mean, it doesn't have to be
Not a
extensive.
bad idea.
It just, I'm just wondering whether we need to have it. If Liz says, oh, no, you don't, it's here, I'm great, I'm fine with it, but.
Yeah. Is that your counsel?
Well, she's our representative for the school committees in the state of
Yeah.
Massachusetts, so she
Yeah.
knows what everybody does for this, and this can't be, everybody must have something
Something
like
very
this.
similar, yeah,
So
yeah,
she'll be able to guide us as to
we
what
just,
what we need to do.
like I said, we were just trying to kind of streamline it so that in the event that this happens, I don't want it to be a surprise that if we all haven't agreed that like, this is our procedure, that I'm sorry that I'm gonna take your kids for an entire day until I find every parent, I don't have the staffing for that. You know what I mean? You guys don't need that, we don't need that, uninjured people are uninjured people. And,
Agreed.
and that extra layer of having a nurse here, you know, should they get back and say, oh, decided my knee hurts or something.
So I know this is specific to bus accident because that's where you're gonna have the largest number of kids at once. Have you ever had a situation though where EMS was called for other purposes, whether it be athletic or anything else? Where something like this was necessary, but it's not bus specific?
So
Like to the school?
Yeah.
like,
Or athletic grounds or things like
sporting
that.
events, things like that, if it's an individual injury.
Yeah.
That is treated like not anything like this, that is us directly dealing with a singular patient and, you know, the required things have to happen.
Right.
The idea for this is more based on that large quantity.
Right.
So if it's the one student at the sporting event, I can't take a refusal from them. There is, by technicality, if it is in this school and there's a school representative here, they still own the child, which is usually, we do everything in our power, which you'll, if you read through that paperwork, it'll say, our requirement is to, within every fiber of our being, try to contact a parent or legal guardian of a student or an underage person. But in the absence of that, a school official, while they're on school grounds, still is kind of their guardian. That's the one I keep saying.
What's a good name?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic.
All
Anybody got any other questions? Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Now to the other side of the safety team. We've got an introduction to our new SRO, Mr. Olson. I believe Mr. Short is here.
Yeah, so this is Officer Matt Olson.
Hello, everyone.
And,
Hey.
SRO, he's off to a fantastic start at the regional school. If you did not know, Matt is a lifelong resident, born and raised in Southwick, graduated from Southwick, well, it wasn't Southwick Regional School then. it was Southwick College in 2014. And he joined the Southwick PD in 2020, and since that time has aspired to be the SRO. So congratulations to him on dream come true, right?
Yes.
But what's interesting, just like some of the ties to the community, he was a varsity basketball player, and I also found out he was the prom king.
Didn't want to throw that in there.
He went to Phil State,
Yes.
so local guy through and through, right? So very
He
committed.
hit a
to the-
home run against the fire department in softball.
All years.
So his roots run deep in the community is the point of all of this, and he's very committed and doing a great job with the students. If you didn't know, some of his areas of specialty is he is the operator for the ROV for underwater searches. And he also has completed a significant training in addressing mental health as a law enforcement officer. So I think those are, one is a super interesting skill. I hope we never need it at the regional school, but the other, very helpful, for anyone working with young people, of course.
And who knows where all the hiding places are at the high school.
Yeah.
Better than the students. It's a little different though. 'cause I
In the
didn't-
older,
in addition-
in the
yeah,
older.
In the blue and brown hallways, I got you.
And his recent projects, as you've heard, has been about working on the traffic, and the driving safety. He's worked really well with the students. The students have come and advocated for things. We had a meeting, with Officer Olson, and he put together a fantastic presentation, which we talked about it, earlier with myself and some students, which was very moving at times. He was very authentic and real with the kids. So that was pretty fantastic as well. And we're looking forward to other projects, as we move forward, building some community, relation things for the school.
Awesome. Yes. Fantastic.
Do you want to say anything?
Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity. I really do appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from the community about having a second SRO. I mean, I have people thanking me all the time. I think it's great too, because anytime Officer Sanders isn't here, I'm able to cover all three schools and vice versa. Yeah, I love going down to Woodland. I love going, and honestly, that's my big thing. I love being back in the school system. I obviously have a deep root to the town. I grew up here. I'm now working as a police officer here. Deputy Bishop, same way, born and raised here, sacrifice and giving back to the community. But I'm really excited about this role. I have like a new passion about being up there. I feel real, like re-inspired about everything. So I'm really excited to see where these years hopefully take me, so. That's all I got. I appreciate all of you for taking the time and allowing me to come here and speak.
Well, welcome aboard. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you so
Couldn't
much.
have had a better person, honestly.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's been great so far.
Hey, there we go.
Yay.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
You guys are hitting home runs.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Hey, no, it's good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Of course.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We're happy to have you.
Hello, sir. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, guys. I need to go to another training.
Okay, thanks.
We're driving the Maya simulator today. Simulated driving.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
I want to do it.
All right.
So Rob, I have a related question to Matt's position,
Yes.
not completely separate.
Yep.
Thrilled to have him here. When we hired a second SRO,
Yes.
at the time, our first SRO
Yep.
was, paid for by the police department.
Yes.
And the agreement that I was under was that this second one would be within the school district
Yes.
budget. Is that still the case?
That is the case. What we did is we met, we had a meeting with the chief and the head of the finance committee, from Southwick. As we said, the second SRO, we determined, and the way that we sort of presented it to the towns was that the cost for that second SRO would be paid for by the district. Superintendent Willard, during that whole negotiation, determined or found out that we needed to make sure that the costs were sort of allocated during time that they were here. So what we've actually done is when we met with them, we, from a budgetary perspective, allocated his entire cost for the year, which is what we had agreed to. So they're gonna end up invoicing us for that amount of money during the year. So that way it meets what the requirement is that we've got. Now, like we said last year, and what we brought up, it was as one of the options. We may have to relook at the allocations of those officers for next year's budget to make sure that everything is done the right way. It may end up being a better setup to avoid the issues with when those invoices come in, to just like we actually heard during a number of our discussions last year was, well, why are we paying for the time during the summer as opposed to when they're here? And I went through a pretty detailed explanation for the towns, that it actually probably worked out a little better for them to do it the way we were proposing rather than breaking it up. But we may end up having to break it up where they're going to be invoicing us for their time here. for both officers as opposed to just the one, but that'll be something that we have to
So-
look at.
So we're currently paying one salary.
Yes.
Now, are we paying and this is where I'm getting confused, are we paying the entire salary, but adjusted according to our calendar year? Or are we only paying the portion of his salary that is responsible for when he is here, and then
No,
the police department pays?
We budgeted and passed. In the budget was that we were paying for the salary for the second officer for the entire year.
Okay,
What we've had to do, they're gonna be from an invoicing perspective, billing us for time that the officer's here. But they're gonna end up invoicing us for probably part of the time of the second officer, because the time in the summer, they can't send an invoice to. So here's the example. Let's say the cost of the officer is $90,000 for the year.
okay,
Okay, we have all approved that. We have all agreed that we were gonna pay for $90,000.
when did we do that?
Well, 70, 80, whatever, that was in the budget that we were approving for the salary of the officer for the entire year. That was one of the big,
Okay, well, I know that was in the budget, but I don't remember that dollar amount, but okay.
okay.
He's just using.
It's a
I made
hypothetical.
a number.
Okay,
It may
I
be-
got you.
It's not the exact number.
Yeah, we got you.
So if we have Matt sitting there going, I want the 90.
Yeah.
It was 80, but I'll take the.
Yeah. So what we had to, from a finance perspective, they can only invoice us during the school year. So however they do that, and the way we left it up, they may end up invoicing us 4 times during the school year for
Correct.
the time. So if that's the
So
case,
basically, they're taking that 80, dividing it by 4,
You got
applying it, but for one officer, not
Yeah.
more than one officer.
for more than one, because right now, from a historical perspective, the town of Southwick has, for the last 10 years, indicated that they would pay for the first officer, and that's what they've done. Now, if that changes, then that will be something that we'll have to relook at. But for right now, what we've done and what we've agreed to and what's part of the contract and the deal that we made with all the towns was that the first officer was gonna remain to be paid by the town of Southwick. The salary of the second officer would be borne by the district. So that's what they're doing.
I just want to make sure that that's what actually happened, because that's what we presented.
Yep, that's because I know there were other options on the table. And this is what we ended up coming down to, and what was voted on by the towns. Good,
Got it.
all right. Next up, Mr. George,
Good evening, everybody. Can I stand?
you can stand there, you can
Wanna
come
stand?
over to a chair, you can,
Stand.
whatever you feel more comfortable with.
So I'm here to provide an update on the ice hockey program. Southwick's been a host of the ice hockey co-op with 3 other schools for many years. Westfield Tech, Gateway, and St. Mary's. And the reason for that is to make sure that there's a team, each of the schools wouldn't be able to provide a team by themselves, and they combine all the schools together. To do that, you need approval from the MIAA. Okay, there's legitimacy with numbers and et cetera. So this time last year, or prior to the 23-24 season, Southwick's co-op needed renewal. They allocate them for 1 or 2 years. So we applied to the MIAA, we got approval through the Western Mass Committee, which is the first series of the approval. There were some questions, concerns, because our numbers together with Westfield Tech numbers, they're kind of large. So I have 2 larger schools at that point together, but it passed through to the MIAA. And then they notified us that they would approve it, but only for 1 year, not for 2 years. So our intentions were, after the 23-24 season, to readjust the numbers, and take a look at the numbers, because we graduated a lot of students, and reapply. But prior to reapplying for this coming season, Westfield High School numbers have taken a dip in the last 2 or 3 years. Last year was the first year again of the JV program, for example. So now they're considering how they're going to maintain their program with the numbers they have. So we couldn't get Westfield Tech necessarily to come in with us before looking into the Westfield co-op. So Westfield and Westfield Tech have requested a co-op to see if that was being granted. They are still waiting for official approval for that. But in the meantime, we applied for a co-op with the 2 other schools, St. Mary's and Gateway, which got approved in the Western Mass AD's meeting And we are also waiting from the DAC, the MIA committee, to officially approve that. So that meeting hopefully will take place this week. Maybe we'll find out at the end of the week, but we are waiting for the information from Westfield and for ourselves before going to the next step.
So what is the next step? Because right now, if we've got, so Westfield Tech, right now in your application for the waiver is not included in those numbers,
They
correct?
cannot be included in two different
Right.
applications, yeah.
So do we, if it gets approved at the MIAA level, the way we are right now, do we have enough kids for a team?
So we, returning students, we wouldn't necessarily, we would have enough kids on the ice, but not for a season-long team.
Okay,
So we would explore into how we could maybe still have access to some of the students that have already played for us in the past.
okay.
But that
Because
would,
they have an option of coming on board.
according
with
to
the
the
team
MIA rules,
that
there
they're
is
currently on.
there is a system where they would have an option, but we'd have to wait till we get everything back from the MIAA
Yeah.
and then move on to that level.
Okay,
So the intentions are to maintain the program at Southwick, to have a varsity team in Southwick competing as we always have. That's the main focus.
As a co-op or as an independent?
As a co-op, we wouldn't have enough.
So where, if we're not getting it from Westfield, where would we be getting them from?
Well, that's where we have to go. If we wouldn't get that, which would be very disappointing, then we're already exploring other ways where our students could play hockey.
That's what we're aiming for Southwick.
Not in that scenario, but I don't really want to go there because I want to really focus on.
So we have to
making sure
secure
that
this
the team-
partnership with Westfield, is what you're saying?
Well, it wouldn't be a partnership with Westfield.
Okay.
It would be an
Yeah.
agreement with the individuals.
Okay.
Because right now-
But that's only gonna last so long. That's only gonna last for a
Correct.
while we have a relationship with certain individuals,
Right.
correct?
But as in many sports, with hockey's experiencing this as well across Western Mass, many schools are seeing a dip in the participation. I see there's a lot of options for hockey players to play elsewhere in clubs and all this, so we're not the only ones, so co-ops sort of are born
out
of
of necessity.
yeah, to make sure the program exists. There may be fewer teams overall in the leagues, but the players get to play. So, who knows, the next generation of Southwick, we see in a lot of sports. Some
So this
sports
is
go through.
this will be an ongoing concern though, is basically what you're saying.
I think that would be in many sports, like sometimes you have JV, sometimes
Sure,
you
yeah,
don't.
that's true.
So.
Yeah. Cause soccer boys
Soccer's
have
the same.
JV this year,
Yeah, we're
right?
JV,
Right,
so-
and
not
they
even a
didn't,
while.
right, and they didn't for quite a
Yeah,
few years.
and we're very lucky, field hockey's another example, most schools don't have JV, it's
Right.
unbelievable. The good thing is we have them, and the bad thing is how to get games for them, because of the lack of competition, so.
So how
it-
many are we talking about right now? Like if this, agreement is approved, how many individuals are we talking about being able to keep on our roster?
So last year, Westfield Tech had 17 students in our co-op. That's enough for a team. Now, not all of those necessarily would be, but,
And would those individuals be given the option of like, hey, you could go to Southwick or you could go to Westfield High?
Well,
Is that the?
yeah, obviously I want to wait until I hear from Westfield,
Hmm,
just to get permission, and, to address that with their students.
right,
But they haven't yet fully confirmed what they're doing,
okay.
because
They're
they're
waiting.
waiting to hear back.
So when does the hockey season start?
December the 2nd is the first practice.
So is it late for MIAA to be deciding this? To me, they're,
It's not, it's for next year.
no,
Oh,
no,
There's
it's
some
been
of
done.
it.
Yeah. The only lateness would be is it would mess everything up in the league if they're one team down.
Right.
Not that they haven't done it.
No, I
before,
know, but why
sports.
wouldn't this have been decided? I mean, this is not a new, like a surprise issue.
Yeah, for Westfield, it might have been a
Okay.
conversation over the summer, administration. They,
But you think they're gonna meet this week?
DAC are supposedly meet this week. I know Westfield's been waiting almost a month to hear back.
Right, that's what I mean, like that, to me, I'm not real, cause either way. Depending on how this rolls out.
Hmm.
Westfield may be looking for extra players, we may be looking for extra players.
Yeah,
And they're giving us a very limited time frame in order to which to solve this,
Yeah.
to allow these kids to play
Okay.
somewhere. I'm hoping that they get this done this week so that you've got 6, 7, 8 weeks in order to solve this, because if they push this or they punt it. You're, these kids may be in a position where somebody's not gonna move the flag.
Well, so that's why I'm working on other.
No,
things,
understood.
Plan B and C as well.
Right, but in order for you to solidify other options, if that's what you need to do, you need to get an answer from
Well, if plan
MIA.
A doesn't happen, then I'm going to plan B.
Right,
Yeah,
but if you don't know if plan A is gonna happen or not, because MIAA hasn't made a decision, you're still in limbo.
yeah, okay, yeah. They will meet this month, definitely, I'm hoping it's this week.
Sounds good. Have we got any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. What do we got next? Superintendent Weather. Oh, no, sorry.
No,
Hang
Serena.
on. You're
Or
on.
no, is it Serena or?
Aaron.
Aaron's
Aaron's
gonna be- Aaron's first.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you're good.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. All right, site
Bye.
strategic plan and data,
And
presentation,
Data, double duty.
usually with colors and with graphs. Aaron Carey,
So I don't know which you would prefer to start with.
it's your presentation. You go with what you want.
Well, the MCAS presentation, benchmark presentation's coming up. So I have obviously all the graphs that I always do, but I tried to keep it the same format so that you guys are kind of growing accustomed to what you're seeing, because I know half the problem is just looking at these. So I am really gonna just kind of move really quickly through these so that you're not bogged down with them. So if we want to start with the first one. So ELA achievement is where we begin. For the first time since I came to Southlake, 3rd and 6th grade are exceeding the state. So we have not exceeded the state in the past. Additionally, we are moving towards pre-pandemic numbers. So that is the ELA gist, is that we're up into past the state testing. Next one. Math, we're above the state in all 4 grades, have now surpassed that meeting and exceeding. That is something that we've worked towards. So we've been at like 2 or 3, but across the board, we're exceeding the state. Next up.
Oh, wait a minute, go back. Wait a minute, so I see we are in third, oh, I'm looking at the wrong calendars, or wrong, no. Meeting and exceeding are the last 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm seeing in 3rd grade, I'm not seeing in 4th grade, I'm not seeing in 5th grade, but I am seeing in 6th grade, is that right? Am I seeing that, am I looking at it correctly?
Are you looking at it correctly? Now you're making.
Powder Mill is the first one, so.
Well, no,
Oh,
third,
okay. So
third
we
grade,
are-
third
so
grade, we're
our-
at 56 and the state's at 45.
Are not meeting, which is the lowest subgroup, in that we're always exceeding the state, but it means that our numbers are lower.
Right.
So our warning kids is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so meeting and
Yeah.
exceeding, you're not talking about meeting
No,
and
for meeting
exceeding
and
section.
exceeding, we are doing it in 3rd and 6th.
Okay.
Again, and not in 4th.
So
and
we
5th,
are
correct.
meeting and exceeding
Yes.
the
I
state.
said that incorrectly, but our not meeting, that's that lowest subgroup. Our lowest subgroup is significantly lower than the state,
In.
every grade. In all of them.
Right,
Hmm,
just the first column, just the first row. I mean.
Yeah.
The first,
The first row,
Yeah,
yeah,
not
not
right,
meeting
right.
level,
The bubble is partially.
we are beating-
which we're-
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
we are beating the
Yeah, yeah,
state
yeah.
at every level in the not meeting section.
Right, yes, we're, so.
And we
yes.
are beating the
In the
state
red.
in 2, we're 50% beating the state in the met and exceeding.
Yes.
Right, I got you.
Sorry, I said, misspoke when I said that. Science, we are consistently and have consistently exceeded the state. So you can see our median exceeding is better than the state, and that has been so for a number of years. So this is cohort tracking, so it shows you each grade and how they did. Really, we are not seeing a trend. I track this to kind of like, in theory, we want that not meeting to start off, and little by little, let's chip away and move kids towards that meeting exceeding. And unfortunately, it seems like we see up and downs without any trend in that direction. We see some positive movement, and in other years we see a negative. So we haven't gotten it at that point where we want it to be. Every year, we're slowly chipping away at the not meeting
and moving them into the partial and then the median exceeding.
Okay, so quick question, or if you've got any info on the fifth grade class of 2032, they doubled in the
Yeah.
wrong direction.
They did.
Is this a fluke? Is this a,
So we're gonna look a little bit, in a little bit about where we are in ELA. So we know that we're in the ELA initiative. We're trending at a lot of testing correctly, but we're not in the MCAS yet. The big thing to keep in mind, I think, is that we still have yet to tackle writing. And that becomes such a big part of the MCAS. So until we really get writing down, I think we're gonna see small increments and changes as the kids read the text better. But we're not seeing the real big MCAS growth because our essays are still.
but they're not
where the-
writing in fifth grade?
No, we don't have a writing program. So
Oh.
our writing instruction is based on what we did many years ago, and we have not adjusted to a new writing program.
Is there a new writing program as part of the new literacy initiative?
There isn't, that is the next thing, which will begin next year.
Okay, because I'm seeing the same, what we're seeing in fifth
Yeah.
grade, I'm seeing in sixth grade as well. I agree with you that seventh is kind of all over the place. But that sixth grade cohort is also not trending well.
Right.
Now, they're incremental, it's
Yeah.
not, it's not
No, but
trying ginormous.
Guys, so I have a fifth grader, so fifth grade was a kindergarten for a little bit. So like many of them are learning to read at home.
no, I know, but you wouldn't, I mean,
I'm just pointing that out,
No, no, I
like
hear
a
you.
fundamental.
but if we look,
you know.
at where they are, you go down to the the Met row.
Mhm.
40% of them were at level in third grade.
And now 25.
And 25, I mean, that's a significant, you're almost talking
drop.
about a 50% drop.
Right.
And you've got more than a 50% increase and I know it's not the same kids, but you're moving.
Well, these are
they
the
didn't-
other things.
They're
These
like
are-
the same
No,
kids.
I know, but it's not theoretically the same kids that moved from
Oh,
Met
yeah.
to
Oh,
not
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
But 50% of them went from Met to where it's almost like they forgot how to do anything in ELA.
I will also, this is not an excuse, however, the state has said that the ELA scores are lower than they've seen. So we did a recent webinar and they said that they're seeing, this year they saw a drops for groups. So what we're seeing on this is not any different than what the state is kind of reporting across.
Right, except we didn't see the commensurate drop in the sixth grade or the seventh grade. When you
No,
look,
they were saying it's in the younger. I
oh,
apologize. Yes, they were
okay.
saying it was in the younger. Mhm. So the next one is math. So math, we are seeing what we want. So this is far more the ideal, right? So we have these larger numbers of not meeting that are slowly being whittled down. And we're seeing the growth on the other end. And, you know, it's not quite picture perfect, but it's what we want.
except for that sixth grade,
One more math and we're joking.
Much longer.
they
I
went up.
mean, basically they shifted, the sixth grade shifted from not meeting to partially meeting, so
Yeah.
that is a success, it's just not. We're not seeing as much of a success in the higher categories.
Yeah,
So that's the shift there, which is a start. Obviously, the next hope is that we shift up in
Even to
meeting
the
and
exceeding.
exceeding.
Mhm.
Right. And I guess the same can be said for some of the other grade levels too.
All right, the next two are the pre and post pandemic slides that the state has been prepping each year. So, you know, you can see what it looked like back in 2019, prior to everything, what our median exceeding percentage was and what it is now. So if you take, that 59, which is us in third grade, and compare it to the pre-pandemic 51, so like here to here. So we're finally surpassing what we looked like back at the beginning of the pandemic. So it's not, we're still struggling here, but we've kind of come back again in sixth grade, so 3 and
So
6.
the meeting and exceeding is what meeting and exceeding, because you've used those terms
That's the
with the
two
bottom
terms.
and the top. So is this the top?
Yes, the top. This is
Okay.
the top, sorry. This
No,
is
no,
the
it's
top.
okay, I just, 'cause
Yeah.
So, you know, it's something, a trend worth while pointing out, and Aaron mentioned this a few minutes ago, is, I mean, you look at that just downward trend at the state level. You know, And across the state in every district, we're seeing this is just not getting better. So, you know, where we have some fluctuations, if you look at these numbers at the state level, it is a significant downward trend. Fortunately, we have some dips, but then we have some increases. So, you know, it doesn't look great.
The next one, if we want to do, is math, same slide. In this one, we see that all of our numbers now are better than pre-pandemic. So
We also went through that whole math
initially,
program,
yep.
right?
So right now, we have come back across the board.
So the math program that we put in place not only mitigated COVID, we're higher than where we were
We're higher
pre-pandemic.
than where we were, and in 2 of the groups, we are exceeding the state.
So this is the epitome of a success.
Yeah, I mean, we want to see 4 and 5 exceed the state also, because they're
Right.
not yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, for the first time, we're getting achievement points. So we know there's the huge accountability system. And for years, we're not receiving any achievement points because we weren't exceeding the state in areas. And now we're consistently picking up achievement points for both math and ELA. Next up. All right, so this is Dibble scores. As I said in my summary, couple of things. So the iReady scores, which is the next one, we are seeing iReady reading scores increase in all the grades. In the Dibbles, we're not. We're seeing more stagnation in 4, 5, and 6. And you can kind of just see, like, from the beginning of last year to the end of last year, that red is not really reducing. We are seeing some increase in the yellow and blue, but we're really not getting anywhere with the red. That is because the Dibbles at 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, the highest, there's multiple subtests, but the one that's the biggest is oral reading fluency. It's weighted the highest, and that is the thing that we have not yet cracked. So we are fixing kids when it comes to decoding, and you can see that in 3rd grade. So 3rd grade has a lot of kids who are in decoding, and we're making huge gains in decoding. We have not really made it with the fluency piece. So by the time kids get to 5th and 6th grade, if they aren't fluent readers, we're having still problems. And that's not just us. There aren't interventions for fluency. Like, we have intervention, we have SIPs, we have Wilson, we have all these programs that we're doing with students who are struggling to decode. There's no such thing in fluency. So we are constantly trying to change and grow and figure out what we can be doing. The fluency is important because when you give us a child a long text, you need to make it through the text in a reasonable amount of effort so that they can then use their brain to focus on thinking about the text, right? And so the worry is that if they're not fast enough and they're not fluent enough, they're wasting too much brain power thinking about the words that they're not comprehending.
So does the science of reading address that issue?
Well, the science of reading has yet to figure out what that intervention for fluency is. So we do have fluency that we do. We have fluency work from Hill, but it's not doing that intervention piece. So we're just not.
Honestly, the true intervention there is
Read more.
reading with your parents from a very young age all the way onward. I mean, that's the
So
crux of the issue.
do we
here.
still have these 1,000,000-word readers and stuff like that? Do we do that anymore?
We do not do 1,000,000-word readers, no.
It's okay, so I'm gonna throw something out there. So if the fluency issue is just straight rote repetition, and the more you read, the better you understand, the more you read, the more fluent you get, why wouldn't we want to potentially
Those
think
kids are
about?
already over
Huh?
there. Those kids are already over.
Right, exactly. That's
What do you
the
mean?
wrong group.
Oh,
There's
They're
the
wrong.
blue and the green.
So if I
Those are
were
the-
to
those
do
are
it,
the
all of my
origins.
blues that are
they're the
already,
ones that are in 1,000,000 and they don't need it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be really blunt. All it does is take the kids who are in the red and discourage them.
Okay,
And discourage them. Because they're the ones, they're not the ones who are getting the 1,000,000 words. The 1,000,000 words are difficult for them. So we're doing everything we can at school to get those 1,000,000 words in that way, but we
so
don't
they
use
need to
that
practice
program.
it more at home.
And everywhere, in their whole day. Like, we're doing everything we can to mitigate that and try to build it into their whole day. Now, the good thing is, if you see the next one, you're gonna see that kids are, you wanna flip to the next slide, it's iReady. So you can see that we are making gains with the students. So this is unfortunately flipped from the Dibbles, okay, you know, I read in the Dibbles can't be helpful and do it the same way. So the final diagnostic is on top, whereas in the other slide I showed you, the final diagnostic was the bottom. But you can see we are cutting into the red here, because we're able to work on comprehension strategies, vocabulary. So we're able to grow other parts of their science of reading, because it's the 5 components. So we're able to do a lot with the other components, but we know that the fluency is still something that needs to be worked on, and it is the biggest test in the Dibbles. But you can see here, there is a lot of growth with those 3 grades still.
So how do we help empower the parents of the children that are in the red that require more help on the fluency side? To have them better understand the ramifications or what the benefits
Mhm.
that their children can gain from them practicing reading with them at home.
So we have done a lot of outreach, whether it's in our newsletters going home, we have rewards for kids who are reading, you know, our summer reading initiative. We bought the books, we matched them
But
to
is
the
it-
students,
okay,
so
so-
we're actively looking at those types of things.
Was it effective?
We felt like our summer reading was, we had a lot of kids who did it, a lot, and it was kids who we were surprised. But we
Okay,
made
so did
sure.
we see it, I mean, are we too early in the year to see if that
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
worked?
I mean, because it is ultimately one book
No,
that we have the child read when it's summer reading, but we're looking at like building on that. How can we build it so that students have the ability to, because even if they don't read to their parents, if they're reading at home, but do they have access to books that are at their level?
somebody's gonna
So-
help remind them, somebody.
Right, and that we're doing.
Doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be books. Matter of fact, there's a lot of studies that will say rereading small passages is very
Yeah.
good. You know, but we do that. We are like incentivizing it. I'm sorry?
What was that I got from the open house? It's like the library has some kind of like bundle thing, you can go grab books.
Yep.
That way at least like they have access, they don't have to buy them,
Right.
you rent them.
Right,
Right,
and
whatever.
we are, we're working with kids so that they're bringing home texts that they can practice on that we know are at their level. Cause that's another problem, right? Is making sure that what they're given to read is something they can read independently. Cause if it's too hard for you and you're stumbling, then you're not
You're
gonna
gonna
be
give up.
reading. It has to
They're
be
gonna just
really
throw
well
that
matched
book.
in order to make it work.
You know, like magazines or comic.
Right, we do our PTO buys Scholastic and, there's like a series, they're all by Scholastic, but there's
Yeah.
like all different versions that have little news articles and we'll send those home to have kids read. Kids are earning Rocks tickets constantly by reading to different people, coming back and having people sign off that they read to them. It could be anyone, read to a babysitter, read to grandpa, read to the dog. If you're reading or reading, so we have many different ways that we're trying to work that, but it's all about having the right text in front of them repeatedly reading it. And then at the same time mitigate so that we know their comprehension is growing.
Right.
Yeah. All right, next up, sorry, it's taking forever. This is the iReady map from last year, so you can see the growth, there, again,
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
you're seeing at the end of the year, the change.
So remind me again, what's red is 2 grade levels below, yellow is 1 grade level, is that right?
Yes, yeah, green is
And the
on,
green is on and the bright green is,
slashy. The
knocking
slashy
it out of
green
the
is
park.
knocking out, yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow.
That's good green.
yeah.
Mhm. Yep, and I think it shows in the
Have
map.
to be the school colors too, yeah, it's awesome.
And then the last page was just a summary, which is everything that we said, except the last one that I have to point to. 10 out of our 23 multi-language learners ace the access test. So the access is done in the spring for multi-language learners. And we actually had 10 students who scored high enough to move out of the program. And we are down in students. I was joking that Leslie Clark is putting herself out of a job because she is doing such a great job with that group.
So if there's 13 more left that we can focus more time,
Yes, yep,
so that's a win-win.
it is. Yep, it is win. Ironically, the state gives us no credit for moving kids off. So that is something where when we're looking at like our accountability, it's incredibly frustrating because we got no credit for 10, almost half the program. She was able to move to a high enough point system, where they were no
So
longer
here's a good,
classified.
so here's a good point, they're not the ones that are signing the checks. So
Sure,
that's.
but it's frustrating to me.
No, no,
you know.
but
And
this
my
is
team
important
that's a lot of
information
work.
for you to
Yeah.
bring to us.
Yeah,
So
Because whether
20
they care about it or not, we do.
it's unbelievably impressive to think about.
That is amazing.
It is.
And
it's
you
all
know, I
different
mean, they
languages, right?
usually.
Yes, yep.
And then they're monitored for.
Yes,
X
they're
amount of
monitored
years
for a
after
number
they
of years, yeah,
graduate,
yeah,
right?
and they will take the access repeatedly,
Yeah.
to make sure there's no slip. You
Yeah.
know, to make sure they're not
But that's
backsliding
like,
at all.
that's like being at a level 5, right?
Yes, yeah, these all of them were at a level, I don't think it's 5, I think it was like 4
4.
something, where they were no longer requiring.
Right,
it.
right. The access test
Yeah.
is due on like all different levels.
And it dictates how much time the student would spend with a multi-language teacher.
Okay.
So the lower your number, the more time that you're spending with that
Right,
teacher,
outside
the more
of the
service that you
classroom.
would have to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So. The 13 that didn't ace it.
Yeah.
They're on different levels of the access.
Yes,
Are we seeing a progressive movement of them? up
we
the
are
levels?
not seeing as much progression, no. That those 10, and so this is, it's a process, right? So some of the 10, we're starting to look and say, okay, is there a learning issue that's impacting that we haven't thought of? There's, we always start with the assumption that the student is going to learn if we present it correctly. So we do that for a while, then we start to say, okay, maybe there's something else here.
Do we,
you know.
do we ever, or have, and this may be a silly question, but do we ever open this up to the parents of the kids?
When you say open up, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, if children are multi-language learners.
Mhm.
And they're trying to get to a point where they can do well enough on the test so they can continue to grow.
Mhm.
I would think it would be very difficult for the children to go home. If their parents don't understand the language either.
Mhm.
So I'm not suggesting that we start a new program tomorrow. But what I'm asking is there a benefit or has there been any thought that if we want to really help these kids, we may need to help the parents?
It's an interesting point. I haven't thought that through in that. I've always.
I don't know whether that's
Yeah,
taboo or whatever, but I'm just, if we want them to
I
succeed.
believe that when they, so I don't know how many of yours are newcomers, I don't know of your remaining.
of our remaining 10, we have, three that would be considered newcomers still.
So
So-
level 1s, level 2s.
Yeah, who, didn't have to take the MCAS, for example, because they were exempted because they were that new to the program.
Right.
And then the other 7 are not. The other 7 have been here multiple years. Of that other 7, we have a variety of things happening that we're looking at them each, we're at the point where we're looking at them each individually, even closer to start thinking
So
about,
it's more than.
like, where are we with this? Because, you can have dual issues. You might be a multi-language learner, but then sometimes, we find out that the student struggles in their own language. Struggles in their home language. Like literacy in your home language is a huge component in your ability to then become literate in another language.
And if you have, like, as I do, kids that came to you after spending a couple years in a refugee camp, then, they're.
And you're still stable.
Right.
I'm just wondering whether this is.
So a lot of times if they're new
for the
arrivals, then that's part of like their induction program and that there are English language courses for adults offered to the parents through a outside
Okay.
agency. I know West Springfield has a much larger population. They actually have like a separate agency that partners with the school district. It's like a big thing.
Yeah.
How many languages are we looking at here with the?
In our building?
community? Yeah.
I think we have 11,
I mean, it's,
12 overall, out of that original 23.
Okay.
So we have a couple new this year, new languages to the building.
so if West Springfield is a whole big program that they've got.
Is there a?
No, I'm just wondering, is there a way that we can explore to maybe?
To see if our
Partner.
families need.
Look, if that's not the solution, that's fine, but I mean, if
Yeah, to find
If
out.
it's a
what's
way that
happening
we
and
can
how
help
we
these
better
kids.
support
The
them.
coordinator, like there's a new position, there's a
Yeah.
coordinator person position, do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
who is that? Can they work as a liaison for us?
I don't know what
And
this.
I mean,
what the
and if our
ramifications are
parents
for-
are illiterate, but they still choose to speak their home language at home.
Right.
That's
they don't
often,
lose it.
that's.
Right.
Right,
Because many students, they don't want to be singled out because they speak a different language, so they definitely.
You don't speak
Speak it at
Canadian
home.
anymore.
Canadian. But all my nieces and nephews lose their Russian speaking ability as once they hit school age, they gain it back later because then they think it's kind of cool, or their parents have more made them,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
All right, sorry, I didn't go down.
So that's all I have for data. I don't know if you have any questions. Feel like we
I
kind
think
of
we
did that
asked
as we
them.
went. Yeah. The next thing, you have a copy of my strategic plan. My strategic plan is very similar, you know, it's incremental each year, so I did put in blue the new things so that you would be able to easily identify what they were.
Assuming that's in gray for.
Gray, sorry, gray for the non-color.
Okay, you get, oh no, that's okay, you get, I know we have a moratorium on color photocopy, so.
So, just a couple of things, we are introducing the ADL building blocks curriculum. Additionally, the district is looking at Wayfinder, that's still in a pilot, situation, but we are introducing that ADL. Looking to expand our homeschool connection, so that's kind of one of my personal projects, which was starting a podcast to start having some resources for families. So we have two things that we've put out so far. One was a guide to parents on how to hack your child's phone. And it is on YouTube. If you have an iPhone and you would like to know how to set up some controls so that your kids can't turn things on and off. Mrs. Root and I did a whole big thing with screenshots showing you what buttons to push and how to, you know, shut it off at certain times and.
I saved it because I don't have a kid with a cell phone because none of my kids need it, but I was like, I'm gonna keep this. forever.
Yeah, because it's very difficult to learn on your own, and as mothers of teenagers, we kind of went through that.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be good.
I tried.
And we also have a second one that we did on bullying, talking about how it's investigated, what that looks like, the steps we take, kind of just walking through. So it's about 30 minutes of just us talking about how that looks and what it entails, so that it's not just, you know, send a form off and you wonder what happened. It gives a pretty good explanation of that whole process. Other thing we're gonna do is have our third full school read. So we began a couple years back with When Stars Are Scattered, which is a full novel. Last year, we did 4 shorter texts on 4 different areas. We had a book called Born on the Water. We had a book called The Name Jar, Tomas and the Library Lady, and The Proudest Blue. They looked at 4 very different cultures and exposed our kids to some traditions that they weren't used to. Additionally, Born on the Water had a strong, but Born on the Water is a set of poems, actually. It's kind of told through poetry, and it tells the story of slavery beginning in the United States and the growth of the African-American culture. And there's a really strong poem in there that talks about slavery and the buying and selling. And we talk a lot about racism with our students at a really developmental level, so that they had a pretty clear picture of what it meant, as opposed to just knowing these are bad things I shouldn't say. So that was something that we did in small groups with every grade. So we want to expand that. We liked the 4-book format. Every class had a book for a week and then it moved on. So the entire, for example, 3rd grade did The Proudest Blue, which is the story of a girl picking out her first hijab and then being made fun of at school when she shows up wearing it and it's blue. If you walk in my building, you'll see a beautiful bulletin board with all different blues that the kids made that form a giant hijab that the woman is wearing. So we liked the 4-book format, and so we're going to do that again. We're looking at the topics being a little more around neurodiversity, looking at learning styles, so a little more in kind of an ableism vein in that sense. And then we're going to be looking to do something that has to do with differences in hair and skin, and that we all have differences, and you know, people look different ways for all different reasons. So those are the topics we're exploring now. The books will go to our school council. And so we have a set of teachers who will review them. The teachers, we have like a team at our faculty meetings that will review them. It'll go to our school council. They'll all have a chance to explore the books. And then we will do that post MCAS. What does that mean? Neurodiversity?
Yeah.
Just students like, for example, autism or ADHD, or we have like a student with Down syndrome. You know, we currently have a student who is blind and deaf. And so we think like having more experience for our kids around what other people are going through in their experiences. Yes, and he is one of our multi-language parents. Yes. Was. Yeah. Yeah, he's an amazing little man. Yep.
Get him off that list and then you can have a party.
I mean, what do you? Like, we're introducing Swiss that you guys had got, I talked to you about that in the spring, so that's starting. And that is gonna be part of our tier 2 and tier 3 work with kids. And I think that's pretty much it. Just more of what we've been doing with every year, kind of taking that next little step, on our continuous improvements. That's the plan.
Very good story since everybody's here. I know it'll take a very short amount of time. Tell them about your little sign that you have coming in. I thought that was a very,
Yeah, so as you walk into Powder Mill, if you look straight up, there's a sign that says welcome, and it was actually Robin Berube, who is the school psychologist for both buildings. She gathered the word welcome in all of the languages that are spoken in the building and had it translated properly. And so we made a poster so that it's a banner. And on the night of open house, a dad came in with his daughter, third grader, and he stopped right in the door. He's like, "This Bangladesh is my language. It says welcome in my language." And it was just great because it's one of those things that if you're not affected by going places and not having yourself represented, sometimes it's the simplest thing to make a person feel welcome. And he made sure everyone knew. And then when he was leaving, he stopped everyone again and made sure everyone knew that it said welcome in Bangladesh, which I could be saying wrong. I'm not a Bangladeshi. I don't even know how to say that language, which is awful. But it just was one of those little things that made a person know that this is a place where we're taking that into account. It wasn't just a generic one with random. It was our powerful languages.
That's great. So I have a practical question.
Yeah.
This, there are quite a few new additions, that I think are reflective of things that we've learned in past years. I think these new additions are phenomenal. What is your transfer plan? Would be to ensure that, this gets full buy-in from whoever your replacement is.
So I think that the good news is whoever replaces me, if they don't have buy-in, they're gonna have a little revolution. So all of these are teacher driven, right? So we are so many years into our working as a team that our teachers are set and know what they're gonna be working on, what they wanna work on. Our team leads have talked about all of these topics. So this isn't my vision for the school. This is the teacher's vision, continuing the work that they began. And they do the majority of it. We have a faculty meeting tomorrow. I will have 4 different cohorts sitting and working on exploring these topics. They're building those things. It's not me saying, all right, we got to get this done. The only one on here that I have kind of said I would take a lot of responsibility for was the standards-based report cards. And I said I would do a lot of the homework to bring that stuff to the faculty. People want to go there, but they know that they've got a lot on their plates. And so we made the agreement that if I did the work to do the research and brought things, that then we would do the conversation. And that was what people wanted, because they wanted a standards-based report card without the homework, which I could understand 100%. So I said, you know what, we've talked about it a million times. So that's the only thing that the person would have to really be on board with doing that extra piece. But I really feel confident that my team is in a place where this is all gonna go on. Whoever comes in just has to sit back, watch, and don't mess it up. Don't get in their way.
And
Don't get in their way.
And in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of parallels between what has been done, initiatives, objectives, procedures, in both Woodland and here, for obvious reasons. I mean, there's been a lot of sharing of administrative minds at those 2 levels. And I would just ask, moving forward in your new position, and obviously you as leader, that we encourage some of these same types of things as they move on to the next level up the hill. Because this is all really sound good practice. It changes and it looks different. 7th and 8th graders can be a beast. We all know that.
And that's where I started, so I know that piece very well.
Exactly. But like, these things can't end when they're done here. These initiatives need to continue as we move up the hill. It will look different. And but like the book reads, for example, there's so much value to that at every single grade level. And I would really like to see some of these things continue on up.
And you would think that somebody that might be in the role of the director of curriculum development
May
might be
have
actually able
some,
to make sure that that shepherding all the way happens. Is
Well, I will
probably-
say that, when I sent my letter to families, letting them know about the change, you know, I talked to my staff and then sent out a newsletter and had a letter in it. And I think you guys probably, I think you all get it. That's one of the things I said is a common mistake when I became an administrator and left Pam. People assume you're an administrator because you don't want to teach anymore. And I can tell you that wasn't why I stopped being a school teacher. It was because my walls were too small. I saw kids in my classroom in 8th grade who left my classroom and bombed. They walked out of my room and their behavior changed and everything about them changed. And it was frustrating to say, how come in this room you do what you need to do and when you're out there you don't? And so I said, I need more space. And so I became an administrator, so I didn't just impact my 125 who came through my 8th grade class, but I could impact the entire school. And so now I'm at a point where I'm kind of sitting here and I'm saying, all right, I've got amazing things happening for 400 kids and a staff of 80 people. And I look around and think, okay, having gone down there, I'm ready to have bigger walls. And expand.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So,
here we
sky's the
go.
limit.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Well, we're really excited to have you in this new spot, and I think Pam's point is very well taken, and I think you're certainly more than capable of being able to take that on and push that through and really enhance the outcomes of everybody in the district, not just the school that you're in right now. So,
That's the goal.
no pressure, but
you've done amazing things at Powder Mill,
Yeah.
amazing, it's really, really hard shoes to fill. But we're happy that we're not losing you.
yes,
And I really firmly hope that whoever comes in can embrace what's happening and see that the staff here has really, they're owning so much of what happens every day. And it's been a road to get us there. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't quick, but we're at a place now where people are making amazing decisions and not just MCAS data and that kind of stuff, like, but our numbers show that we're an engaged community. You know, whether it's teachers, whether it's parents, whether it's the kids, we are an engaged community in this building.
I can
And
tell you
that's-
for chronic absenteeism for students and staff parallel each other. The teachers don't want to miss school here and the kids don't want to miss going to school here. They're one of the top in the state.
oh, wow.
Yeah, I was really, the day I found out, I
Yeah.
called the staff down and there was a collab day the next day. We bought pizza for everyone. I was blown away. It was amazing. Our teachers have built a place where kids might feel a little sick, but then they go, oh, but this is what's going on. So, yeah, I want to be there. And our kids come to school, but it's good. The kids come. Mhm.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody have any other questions? All right, super.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
your time. Superintendent Willard.
Okay, I'm gonna combine my goals with my superintendent's update because it's part of my goals.
Awesome.
3 of my goals are the same as last year because as we know, we don't accomplish the goal. So I know Erin mentioned to you writing, well, because we're not exactly where we wanted to be with the science of reading and because we have so much work to do with the district attorney's action, the attorney general's action plan. We decided to just kind of hit a pause. The teachers need like a pause so that they can really strengthen the work and everything that they've learned with the science of reading before we're moving on to something else. So we were going to start the writing initiative this year. We're pausing and we're deepening our work with the science of reading. So that is still the same as it was last year. The other one is last year, I had even younger administrators and newer administrators this year. So I'm going to have to spend a lot more time with the principals, with their goals and really how to use data. I've already had a meeting with the regional school looking at their data and what the plans are for improving them, which is already sooner than I even got it done last year. So that is
I have a question
positive.
about that as I was reading over that one. So, you know, at the regional school, we don't have Dibbles, we don't have iReady, we have the MCAS. But then, like, the MCAS is not end all be all, right? So what other data, do we have at the regional school that we're using, that we're looking at?
Yeah, they do have iReady, but they don't do it in the older grades.
Okay, so
Until
iReady
ninth
ends,
grade.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
okay, so iReady is
Yeah.
7, 8, and
Yeah.
through 9, or does it stop at?
And ninth grade are the last group to do it, but
Yeah.
10 through 12 have APs, so I guess that could be another way.
For a portion of the population?
Yeah.
We would much rather do iReady than any other kind of test, because it doesn't feel like a test, and it like kind of de-stresses you. It takes that anxiety out of testing, and you feel like you can do a lot better with it, I feel like.
Well, but you guys hated it, you complained about it, which is why they got rid of it.
We're always gonna be complaining about it, but
If you make them do a test, they want to do that. They would rather not do it.
What might be interesting is if on the ballot question, if they do repeal the MCAS, I wonder what they're going to put in for a graduation requirement. You never know, it could be something like iReady or. You just don't know, so the kids might take it a little bit more seriously. But the big thing is we looked at MCAS data. Up there, because we know how our kids are trending at the elementary school, and then when they get into 7th and 8th grade, and the data crashes. I mean, it crashes. And then it rebounds again in 10th grade. So we had a really good discussion about curriculum, because when we looked at the 10th grade, there were just 2 questions that the kids did poorly on. So he's like, that could be a curriculum issue. But when you're looking at it and all the kids are below the state, and I go, that's not a curriculum, that's an instruction. So Serena and I had like some pretty difficult conversations about holding teachers accountable to be using the highly qualified instructional materials that we purchased in math up at the regional school. She brought the data to the teachers, and the teachers came up with next steps and goals for themselves. So it was like my first real data conversation, I hate to say it, up there, because I basically said, I don't want to look at meeting and exceeding, I want to look at an item analysis. Because an item analysis is where you learn just give me an item analysis. I don't want to see meeting and exceeding. I want to see an item analysis. So when she sent me the item analysis, that's where the discussions really became, not looking at just the meeting and exceeding. So item analysis compares you to the state, and it tells you, if the question was easy, we should have done really well on it. If the question was hard and we didn't do really well on it, that's okay, because the state didn't do really well on it either. But if a question was easy for the state and our kids didn't do well on it, and that's an instruction. Like, that means we're not
So
teaching
it
it.
goes by question as
Goes
opposed to
question by
the,
question.
as opposed to the overall
And it
score.
even color codes it, like green, you're
Yeah.
at or above state, red, you're
Red,
below state,
right.
and it'll tell you how many points below the state you are.
Yes,
So the ones that are really red, really below the state, those
Yes.
are the ones where you gotta be like, okay, what's going on right here?
but when you're mostly all red, we got issues.
It's an operation.
So, yeah, so we had really,
Now, am I correct that
Difficult
this is the
conversation.
first year of a new course in 7th or 8th grade related to reading or writing?
The writing.
the writing is new because we need help with writing. And that was very evident on the, I'll let Serena do her MCAS thing, but our writing was definitely a deficit area up at the regional school as well on the MCAS.
So just as what might be interesting, I don't know how difficult it would be. When Serena does her presentation on this stuff, can she bring some of that data on the item analysis?
Yeah.
Because, no, like, it doesn't make any sense to look at MCAS data if it's all mishmashed
Well, I
anyway.
think what's most important is
That's
that
great,
the
yeah.
teachers have the professional development
Yes.
time to look at that data. Because, you know, us sitting in the room looking at the numbers, the administrators looking at the numbers, that's not really what's most valuable. What's most valuable is the teachers looking at those numbers and the teachers taking ownership of that and actually looking at that item analysis
Knowing it.
and figuring out why.
Yes.
I mean, because like, listen, we can make all the decisions that we want, but your teachers are the ones that are doing your work for you. You know?
So did they never get that information before?
Sure, if they ever did take item analysis, because when I was meeting with Serena, I said, I really need to see the item analysis. And so she's like, okay, I'll get that for you. And she did. And she was like, wow. So,
It's
So that-
not friendly information to get. It
Don't
should
like.
be, the coaches should be the ones that have access to that data. The coaches should be the ones that then are meeting individually with the departments, providing that data and facilitating these discussions. And I would hope that there is time built into some professional development for that.
Yeah.
If there is not currently, then I'm going to strongly advocate for that.
So I do know that when Serena said that staff Richmond is working with the teachers on their data. So I know the coaches working. with the
Because
teachers.
basically they've got to get the Edwin data. The teachers don't all have Edwin data
No.
access, but the coaches should have the Edwin data access.
They
And
need
then-
it.
So that's the protocol that we use here, is we do it so each teacher sees their own, if they see, the chart has the state, it has the district, and it has them separated out.
And it has their item analysis.
It has their,
as well.
that's it, that one item analysis is all three
So what's the
lines
Edwin
across
data?
it. And then the teachers go through a protocol with it, so that they're looking to see, okay, where are 5 areas where I pulled the district's average down? Where are 5 areas where I pulled the district average up? Where are the areas that I'm farthest from the state, good or bad? And then they're looking at making a plan for each one of those, like figuring out what that question was, what was, the content. So like number 7, okay, what was the content? What was it about? What was the standard? And then thinking back to what they've taught in that, and then starting to think about how do we plan from here? It's sharing the things that you're doing well, that you're exceeding people on, making sure that like, if you're pulling up the district average, you're sharing with the rest of your team.
What you
And
did.
then looking at, okay, how can I figure out where I'm going wrong and what supports do I need to re-examine that?
So I'm gonna ask a dangerous question. This information.
Yeah.
Has it always been available?
It should be, yeah.
So at the high school level. We're
It's
getting.
different beast at the high school level though.
Oh.
It's a lot easier, like, so that if you're tying it to an individual teacher's scores, then like it really only applies at the regional school, it really is only gonna apply to 7th and 8th grade English and math teachers.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
it.
but okay, so let's just look at those. So we get
Because
seventh
then when you
and
get to high school, then it's like
I'm
hot
just like
mess.
one piece at a time. So 7th and 8th grade level, math and English teachers. We've been getting MCAS scores that have been bombing.
This year, they have not
That's
always
true
been.
across the state, so don't be too.
Okay.
hard.
Yeah.
I think 7 and 8
I'm
is
worried
not
about
be
the
a bomb.
process, not
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
This is
I
a
don't want the
process
teachers to
question.
feel like we're attacking them.
No, 7 and 8 is
Proper thing.
This is a process question.
Yeah.
Looking at it at the individual question level,
Mhm.
to me, that would make the most sense because you get the most relevant information.
Or
out of it.
standard level. It
Because
doesn't
if
even
you-
necessarily have to be question.
Either way, but
Standard.
just looking at the final result doesn't necessarily tell you.
Correct. Where,
Like, I mean, you've got a baseball team, your baseball team keep losing. And you don't actually look at why they're losing, then you keep losing and you don't know
Yeah,
why,
because
you
it's not-
never know.
Right.
But if you break it down and go, oh, well, guess what? Every time that we do this, we lose. Well, this would be the.
Yeah.
The equivalent. So I would think as the curriculum development, or if we would want to have that as an absolute doing going forward, that if we have the opportunity to get that kind of information at its basic level, so that we can actually give the teachers ideas and information on whether they're doing well on a question or bad on a question, can we make sure that that's happening?
And we don't want this
We
to
talked about
feel
that
like
before.
this is attack. We don't want to
No,
feel like this is
no.
scores are being tied personally to teachers or
No,
anything like that.
No,
It's not, that's not.
I
the goal.
can't
This is
expect
school.
anybody to get
And-
to improving if they
and this-
don't have all the
Yeah, it's
information.
looking at your own,
Exactly.
it's looking at yourself and reflecting on what
Yeah.
was going on and thinking about what you want to change about your practice.
Right.
And I would think-
And what you
And
need,
that
and what you
absolutely has
need.
to be the
Like,
goal.
why do we have science of reading? Because we started this process 5 years ago and said, they can't understand the text at grade level. And we
They couldn't-
figured that
they
out,
couldn't break up a multi-syllabic word.
Right.
Well,
Well,
that's
and-
why
and
we
then-
had to switch our
So
curriculum.
I
and
might
it's
say
taken
bomb in
years.
science, not that they don't know the science, they can't read the question.
So
Right.
can you think that the teachers would want to, if they have the opportunity to see this kind of detail, that they would want that as well?
Yes,
Most of them eat it up and are ready for it.
And if you've got
They
it,
want
but it has to be a safe place for you.
That's
to
what
be
I was
reading
going
and
to say, it has to
They're gonna
be
very defensive.
presented
We'll
correctly.
get defense.
It cannot, absolutely.
Because they're also dealing with a lot of other factors than just their instruction.
right,
You know,
Right,
like
that's
there's
how
a
the kids
lot
actually
going on.
receive it too.
Yeah. there's
Then
a
there's
lot
a lot
going
going on when the MCAS was given last year and stuff.
right, well, that's true.
That's just what happened there.
All right, sorry,
So that's okay.
off we go.
The next one was aligning our policies, because we're still doing that one.
Yep.
And then the new one is, over the course of the year, I'm gonna work closely with the Attorney General's office on implementation of the action plan for the Southwood Thailand Granville Regional School District Together, we work to build a greater sense of belonging for all students through education and awareness. And I've just put down the things that we have already included in the Attorney General's action plan. And part of it is doing a needs assessment with William James College. And that's our superintendent's report. We had our first meeting with Dr. Renee Hayward on last Thursday at our admin meeting. We did a lot of really good work, some unpacking of language, so we all have a common language when we talk. And she's going to be working with Northeastern so that these aren't two initiatives going like this, but that the work that we're doing at our needs assessment and the work that Northeastern is doing with students up at the regional school is really connected. So William James is about taking our current professional development, taking our current work that we're doing and shoring it up and strengthening it up for us, not doing something else in addition to the things that we're already doing, but really making sure that they're supporting that.
Aren't they also assessing what we do and how we do it to determine where the holes are?
Yes, that's what they're, yeah, but with the admin team, they're working on to shore up our admin teams, like.
Are they gonna come talk to us? Or do they need to talk to us?
Or better yet,
Or
give
do
the
we-
admin team some time to work with them
Yeah,
and have the
that's
admin team come to us and tell us, what they've learned, what they've done, where they're going.
But she was really great. We did an activity together about our team culture. Because she talked about culture and climate a lot. And culture is kind of like your long-standing history. I always think of it as like a tapestry. I learned this from another superintendent. She's like, culture is like. So climate is like a big yearly thing, like a principal can affect climate. Like they can come in and do something like really well and like every morale gets great, okay? But culture is a long, deep-seated. Long, deep-seated like norms of the district. So each year there's a principal or there's something, they're weaving their culture, but the tapestry is the culture over years and years and years. So it becomes like this picture. So to change climate's really easy. Like one person can come in and change a climate, but to change a culture that is deep-seated and been there for a long time is a much longer process. So we might see an uptick in, morale and a sense of belonging, but to really change the culture and the sense of belonging, it's not going to be in 1 year. It's not going to be in 2 years. It's going to be really constantly keeping it at the forefront of the decisions that we make. So I really thought that was like a really good way to think of it. There's no quick fix. There's no assembly. There's no one thing that's going to come in and change and fix everything. It's all the little things that we do over time, like having that sign in the front entrance. It's those little things that are really going to start changing that sense of belonging for all families in our school. So that's my fourth goal. It's really working with the Attorney General and making sure that we do what they asked us to do.
Do you have future meetings with this woman from?
December 4th, I think
Okay.
she comes back.
Okay, and again, is it the whole admin team?
She meets
Again,
with our admin team.
okay.
That's our admin team meeting.
Right.
And that's it.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
All right, policies. So we have, we may need some help on this one. We've got two policies that we've got here up for review tonight. That we're looking for here later on, actually next, to waive the second and third reading and vote on the changes. One of them is the student, I guess I'll do the first one, the student fundraising. We determined that from a state perspective, we do not need to approve every fundraising activity that's done in the district. Most districts have the superintendent approve that. We give that authority to the superintendent. What we've run into certainly last year and a number of times is that we've got people that come to a realization that they want to do a fundraising activity and it's easy to do and it's easy to set up, but if they miss the timing of the school committee meeting, it may actually delay it to a point where it can't even happen in a timely manner. Yeah, well, that wouldn't be fundraising, but if somebody wanted to do a car wash, or somebody wanted to do something for an activity, and they wanted to do it for a sport, and the next time the committee meets, or they missed the wrong one, and we've only got one meeting that month, now it's a month later, and the sporting activity is actually done at that point, doesn't really make a lot of sense. So instead of us having to do special meetings or something over Zoom to actually approve something as simple as a fundraising approval, we've come up with this adjustment. We pulled it right from the MASC, I believe.
Yeah.
So what we're looking to do is to waive second and third reading on this and implement it right away.
And I think this specifies that in certain situations, it requires approval by both the building principal and the superintendent. And then other ones, it's maybe just superintendent only, I'm not sure here.
And athletic director
And
sometimes.
sometimes athletic director, okay.
Yeah, so. This one, from my perspective, is pretty
Yeah.
simple and cut and dry.
Yeah.
Anybody have any comments, concerns?
On top of the fundraising form, so you have to fill out, I've done this like 16 times for my class, and it's been a pain every time trying to get it through.
Yeah.
I've had it sent back to me about 5 times, and I haven't even gotten it to the school board yet for
Right.
some of these things. But the whole thing that kind of bothers me is that the fundraising is a whole separate thing from the event. Can they somehow combine those two documents? And if you aren't necessarily doing fundraising, you would leave that section blank. But you could just simplify the documents a little bit. So that.
So I've got one here that's in our packet. Student council, breast cancer awareness bracelets. So what are you saying? You have to fill out a separate form?
Yeah, I don't know
Or-
why that's not on here.
They don't have to approve it, then.
Yeah, so you guys only get one of the documents that we actually have to fill out. We have to fill out a whole nother one with basically the same information as this top section.
Yeah.
And that's just to say, we're trying to have an event, and then you go and say, we want to fundraise with this event, and it's just.
That actually seems like a very reasonable request.
And now that's like you go into the school board, I don't see why it would need to be 2 different documents.
I tend to agree with you.
So maybe is whatever that form is, and whoever.
Do you think,
posts
Superintendent
that
Miller, do you think
form,
there might be something that we
maybe
could?
that form needs to
Does it have
get
a
looked
separate
at?
purpose?
Well, this one would have a separate purpose because it needed to go to the school committee to get approved.
Because this one is fundraiser application and approval form,
Right.
but there must be a second one that goes
Event
with it,
form.
that's like an event
Yeah.
form or something.
How about we do this?
So,
No, okay, so hang on. I'm gonna give you a suggestion. There's 2 ways to go about this. I can ask the superintendent to look into it, to talk to the principal at the high school. They can figure out how to do this and possibly come together with a form that will make sense. And that we can get to a point where they decide that, yes, we want to make a change. I don't know how long that will take. What might be a very efficient manner to do this is, I'm pretty sure that you're probably pretty savvy with either Word or Excel or something like that. Put together a suggested form with the verbiage that's on there.
Yeah.
Present it to the principal of the high school,
Right.
send an
Create your
email
own.
to the superintendent and let her know that you gave it to her. So that way you have now done
A rough
the
draft.
heavy lifting to give them something that they can look at and go, you know what, this is a great idea, let's approve it.
Mhm.
It may happen in a third of the time. Does that make sense?
Because you know what you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah, because there's some of the things that it just doesn't, when you read the applications for these things, it sounds like they never talk to any of the class presidents or officers or advisors, because it doesn't align up to what we need. Like applicant signature, I waited 2 weeks to get 5 papers back. All for them to say, oh, you can't sign it, that was supposed to be Ms. Pomeroy to sign it. So it's just the wording on some of the things.
So basically, you're telling me that this process stinks.
Yes. And every class agrees about it, and they were all trying to meet and
Okay.
say.
So here's what we can do. Next school committee meeting, or the next one. Put some time, get together with some of the other class presidents. Put together a new form.
Mhm.
Put together a quick little presentation as to what you want to do. During your little time, or on the agenda, you let me know and I will give you time on the agenda. And you can present it.
Yeah.
And that way the superintendent will be here, we can ask Ms. Shorter to be here. You can give some thorough or some thoughtful suggestions. And they can take it under advisement, and that may be a great example for you to look through for some problem solving. And how to make a presentation and get a win-win out of this. Sound good?
Right.
Ever got any issues with it?
No, sounds good. I like that. It's all problem.
See, it's always good to, if you've got a question or you've got an issue, bring it up. It's never a bad thing to ask a question. All right,
Conduct on buses.
yes, conduct of buses. This is something that, again, we need to implement right away. Because, why is that? There's a reason.
Because now we can have skis and
Right.
instruments and large items on
Yes,
the bus.
because
feedback.
currently, apparently, our policy does not allow that. And if we've got a band going somewhere or the ski team going somewhere, somebody can sit there and go, golf club, no, sorry, we can't put them on, which is.
This says nothing about that.
There's nothing.
Absolutely nothing about that.
Wait,
That's
About
our new one.
conduct.
This is the new.
Oh, so the old one has stuff on there
Yes.
that we're eliminating.
Yeah.
Oh. I thought you were adding something about them allowing you to bring stuff on the
No,
bus.
we just, the other one said that they could not bring. lunch.
Got it.
All right,
I couldn't bring stuff. This-
Yeah.
This is like the affirmative,
got it.
you know, we're getting rid of the junk and,
And this
Making it
is
gray.
mask,
right,
so yeah,
yes.
good, good.
Is there a warning process with the one, with this one? Like,
Like
do
the
the parents
warning?
be
Yeah,
about
but
where they
they-
get told that they can't
pick up the
no
bus.
longer get, ride the bus?
Like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing,
Something,
or
a warning and then, second.
And I would guess it depends on how severe the violation is.
Yeah, and I would think something with that, to the more in the handbook on your student discipline or something.
Got it.
Cause you don't want to be tied into.
Yeah, I don't think that belongs in
Our
policy.
current one has, it's like one of those same things we had before with sports, it said they couldn't do anything on Sunday mornings,
Right.
but you get rid of it,
Right.
same type of,
And it will rest with the principal, so I guess
yes.
more handbook.
Yeah.
This has to go in our handbook.
Yeah. All right, anybody got any comments? Any comments on this one? You good with it?
Yeah.
No, hey, listen, I like participation, it's all good, you guys are here for a reason, so don't be afraid to speak up.
Cool.
Hey, look, your predecessor even tried to vote on a lot of things. So, I mean, I encourage the participation. All right, good.
All right.
He got it, he finally got his vote counted on one of them. All right, so we're done with that. Action item, Superintendent Willard, take her away.
To approve consent agenda items as listed above recommended.
So,
All right, show of hands in favor of the motion. Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 6-0.
Move to waive second and third reading of policy JJE student fundraising activities recommended.
so,
Second.
Any comments, questions, discussion? Show of hands to approve the motion. Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 6-0.
Move to approve policy JJE, I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
All right,
Yeah.
student fundraising activities. Recommended.
so,
Second.
Check this. Comments? Show of hands to approve the motion. Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 6-0.
Move to waive second and third reading of policy JICC and policy EEAEC, student conduct on buses recommended.
so.
Are there two policies or one?
Two.
Well, also, JICC also.
Got it, okay, no, I just want to make sure it's listed on the
You're fine.
thing that we got, so we're not approving something that's gonna come back and say you didn't do it right. Okay, show of hands to approve the motion. Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 6-0.
Move to approve policy JICC and EEAEC, student conduct on school buses recommended.
So,
Second.
Any comments? Show of hands to approve the motion. Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 6-0.
Move to accept that the April 17th through 26th, 2025 trip to Spain involving SRS students is not school sponsored due to the trip being run by someone other than a school employee recommended.
do we need an explanation?
We will.
Okay,
I need
so
a sec-
you
I
need
need-
to so move
I need a
first.
move and a second, and then we can
Okay.
have a discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Because most people have no idea what this is talking about.
Yeah, like-
Superintendent Willard, do you want to give a little breakdown as to what's going on?
So we had a previous staff member who came and presented the trip to Spain. And you approved her to move forward with a trip. She is no longer a school employee, but when you work with EF, the trip belongs to the person who set it up, not the school. So the school can't have access to the students' names. We don't have access to anything because a trip belongs to a person and not the school. So as this person is no longer a school employee, we can no longer have it be a school sanctioned event because she is not our employee.
Now,
The trip's still going, the kids are still going, they're still doing their thing, but it's not, they can't fundraise under a STGRSD trip to Spain.
so what ramifications could this possibly have, if any?
For us as a school district,
For us as a school district, for the kids that are participating, for the families that are participating, like, what does it mean for it to be not a school, to still go on, but not be school sponsored?
well, one, like, do you remember when all the kids had COVID and some of them were stuck in Italy and everything, and we helped problem solve that situation. We wouldn't be part of problem solving this. The parents are gonna get communicated that it's not a school event, we are not sanctioning it, that they're going with this person. And they know that this isn't sponsored by us. They also cannot fundraise under a school trip. If they're gonna do fundraisers, it's not something that I'm going to be signing off on or anybody else can sign off because it is not a school trip.
Do we know how many students this applies to? Do we know
No,
That's the
whether or
problem.
not,
no,
they paid so far? I mean, that, do we know anything?
no.
Is there anything, could we run into any legal issues with regard to, or insurance issues with regard to if something happens to these kids while?
If we didn't vote on this, we probably could, because
Right.
the last vote was that it was school sponsored. I've also had some additional conversations when this first popped up with Serena.
Okay.
Yeah, and Russ. I'm not very impressed with EF at all.
Okay,
They could have helped in this situation to help give us some information, but they're staying firm that they're not divulging any of that information. I'm not overly impressed with the leader of the group. If you're gonna have a school sponsored event and you're a teacher in the school and you're no longer a teacher in the school, probably would be a good idea if you transfer the responsibility to another teacher in the school. My understanding is that there was potential people interested in doing this, but they met resistance on the leader's part. This is at this point an absolute mess.
so it could be transferred, but it's.
Could be transferred, but it wasn't an option that this has become a mess. And frankly, from my perspective, and I talked to Ms. Schroeder about this, there are other companies out there that do foreign trips. And based on the response and what we've had to deal with and what Ms. Schroeder's had to go through, trying to get this resolved with the EF on her side, I'm not really interested in allowing anybody else to go through EF right now. I would have a big problem with that because they could have resolved a lot of this stuff and they didn't. So really, from our end, right now, the safest and the only move that we can do is unsponsor it as a school event. The parents will all be notified that it's not a school sponsored event, that they're on their own, they can choose to go of their own accord. For some reason, I remember something about financials, that there was fundraising that they did do, where there's money that's been allocated, but we don't even know who's in it to be able to even consider transferring the money that was fundraised into the specific kids, because EF won't tell us the kids' names. So
Can the parents come back at us? for
why?
something like
No.
this? No.
They can
No.
look, they're gonna be given fair warning that, look, because of the circumstances. This is now no longer a school-sponsored travel event. And you're basically going at your own risk. And if there's any challenges or any problems or something in the past, that the school would have been involved with helping to mitigate or solve an issue. Perfect example is getting COVID on the way back from Italy, and we had teachers that stayed, and we had kids that were there, and parents that were there, and we helped coordinate all of that. That wouldn't happen.
And I can say that the person who is leading the trip has reached out to the parents and told them that she will be taking it. We don't have the names, we don't have a roster, we don't have any information.
So my one request then is that if we do approve this, which sounds like that's the most prudent thing to do.
For legal, we have to.
That it just be explicitly communicated to the parents that this is no longer a school-sponsored event and that this is 100% at your own risk, and whatever you have worked out with ETF, the school cannot be held liable for anything. And I really, really, really want to make sure that that is extremely explicitly communicated to these families.
We don't include the families.
Right.
So how
How do we
how
notify
do we
them?
do-
Moving forward, if there's gonna be another school trip, like, we need to have access to the information.
Well, that's why I mean, like, if EF has made it, EF has made it very clear to ensure that they will not release that information. So I told her, I said this, okay, so we're gonna make this really clear to EF. That this will be the last time that they deal with subject.
And if we can make it clear, if it's gonna have to be a blanket email, if we can make it clear in that blanket email why it is a blanket email, so you don't get a whole bunch of people going, what am I giving this stupid email to?
Have you worked with Russ on it? Attorney Duke.
Oh, that's so.
Yeah, look, this is what you would call a completely avoidable situation that is unfortunately led to this situation.
Do we have any other options? I know we have to protect the.
In what way? Here's the problem. In order to have another option, you need to know who's involved.
All right, we talked about the leader of the trip
Yep,
could have given it to someone else.
yep.
That was the problem, that there's no one else that wants to go.
No, I think the problem is that nobody at this point wants to go with the leader.
The leader will not give up.
The leader needs to relinquish control of the trip, and the leader is not relinquishing control of the trip. And that person is dead set on going on the trip. So therefore, the only option that we have, and that the only option that the kids have, is that this teacher is running, or the former teacher is on the trip. The kids have signed up for this trip, and EF will only deal with that person until they relinquish control of the trip. So we have been left with one option. I believe me, when I was up there with Serena, I asked the same questions, like, what can we do?
And I've asked legal.
And the fundraising money, there's no way of releasing.
Actually, for our attorney, we can't release it because it was raised under the guise of fundraising for STGRSD school field trip.
Like,
Well, that's gonna infuriate parents.
Absolutely.
My
Well,
kid
I
had
mean,
participated in
it's-
fundraising.
Well,
and I
now,
couldn't
what I
process it.
don't know is, I don't know how much amount, look, I mean, if it's $50 in that account, okay, but if there's like $5,000 account. I don't know what's in there, but you can't. Even if we had an opportunity to release it, we don't even know who to release it to. So, and then the only way that we can release it is if it remains a school trip. In order for that to happen, you've got to have a relinquishing of the control of the trip, which is not happening. So we don't have really any options in front of us at all.
Does that individual know about the legal ramifications that we're gonna be voting on tonight?
It seems crazy that we can't
Right, I mean, I
combat them.
Right? Well, I mean, it's not really a question of combating them. I
Yeah.
mean,
Not even
you
combat
asked,
E and F.
well, listen, you know this as well as anybody. If you're dealing with a vendor, or you're dealing with something and it doesn't go well, you as a consumer have the ability to either work with them again or not. We've been doing trips with EF for every year for dozens of years, correct? Well, I hope that they're happy with their decision, because this will be the last time that we deal with EF. I mean, unless we vote to do it again, but my recommendation would be strongly that we will find another vendor that can provide school trips.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that when we entertain that, or when we have these initial discussions, that we find out what the rules and regulations are with respect to what happens if the leader leaves and what kind of options do we have in front of us and get that negotiated up front.
Right.
So that way we don't run it. This was certainly something that I don't think anybody would have thought of,
No.
but you would think that reasonable people would be able to come to a reasonable
Well,
decision.
you would hope.
I would hope,
Because this is
we're at,
better for kids.
absolutely,
Right.
well, it's gonna. Again, if there's $50 in that fundraising thing, I mean, it's gonna hurt anybody. If there's $1,000, do we know how much is in that? How much is in there? Okay, all right, so either way. We need to vote to make this not a school-sponsored event because of the situation that we've been placed in.
But the next one will be
The next one, yeah, we're gonna have to,
next year
if they wanna do it.
because of these reasons.
Yes, we have to
Yeah.
get much more information.
Yeah,
Right.
And be clear with our leaders.
yeah,
Mhm.
yep. I think for this one, we don't have any other options, and unfortunately, it isn't from a lack of trying.
All right. Well,
All right,
The students get receipts when they did any of that fundraising? They didn't
no
get
idea.
any. I know, but if you were to say blanket statement, if you did, and
I
Who
I
knows?
gotta work it out with legal, that's the
Yeah,
next
it
step
gets-
after
it
this
gets-
vote.
This is one of those, you gotta be kidding me, but the real world with legality and stuff like that creates roadblocks. When you wouldn't think that there should be one.
Do we have to take the vote tonight, Rob? Is it imperative we take the vote tonight?
Well, I mean, I think here's the thing, we can take the vote tonight and make the trip a non-school sponsored event. If the situation on the ground changes, we can always take another vote and make it a school sponsored event again. If-
No, I'm just saying if we tabled it for tonight,
Yeah,
I mean, it's on Zoom. There might be some media coverage on this.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody might be more agreeable.
yeah, I am certainly open to that. I mean, I don't think it's gonna make a difference in it, I mean, we could.
I'm doing it for the kids.
Yeah, hey.
And I'll
we can
make
do
that motion that if
I mean, I mean, even if we table it tonight and we vote on it at our next meeting and the situation on the ground changes the day after. It can always come back before the school committee and we can vote for it to be school sponsored again. Like it. Until the trip happens. It could be school sponsored if all the cards are in the right spot. But do we wanna have let's do this.
I made a motion to table.
Yeah, table it. Can I get a second to that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, we're gonna vote on, I don't know where we put that in there, Aaron, but we're gonna vote to table this action item until next meeting. All right, that's it for those. Okay, I'm gonna try to speed through this because we're going on our
So yeah,
longer.
so I have to
agenda.
leave like
Nope.
shortly, very shortly.
It's okay, I'm gonna get you out of here in less than 5 minutes. Negotiations, we already talked about finance, we had a meeting and we didn't really go over any finance stuff, we just talked about grants. LP back, anything earth shattering here?
So much, they're short 40 drivers, Wilbraham is the worst off, they have like 9 school buses that are late every single day. Going in and coming out, they're super close to getting the electric buses, they're in. We're not getting one, of course, I think Agawam, West Springfield, or West Springfield, you know, the bigger areas are getting them.
They can try them all out.
Oh, yeah,
Let them
yeah,
try them
yeah.
somewhere else.
but none of the
Yeah, for
chargers
the
are up.
fire department.
Yeah. But that's about it. Lots of other stuff, but
Right.
nothing earth shattering.
Corporation, I don't have anything other than Superintendent Willard, do we have any sort of resolution or update on our kids that are sitting waiting at the power to rail?
Oh, I did, they just don't have drivers, there's no.
Oh, that's not the issue, the issue is
Oh,
they've
you
got a
want
driver
early.
with the kids. And
It's
they
actually
pick
supposed to get back to me on October 3rd. I'll follow up.
over
Is this
third,
about
that's
picking
today.
them up, the ones from
That was
Granville?
last week, right?
Last Thursday.
He didn't get back to
Nope.
These are the ones that are getting picked up insanely early?
you.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
insanely early,
Oh,
they're sitting here in a bus.
Yes, I have
waiting
something else
20
to say,
minutes and
it's
then
because
going.
we have exchange buses, and that's
Yes.
our issue. And so, right, and I didn't understand what he was
We have
explaining to me.
exchange buses?
They switch transfer buses.
Yeah.
Okay, but hang on, and it'd be great if Desiree was here, because her child involved with this.
Yeah.
The information I have is that they pick them up early. They drive them here to Powder Mill. They're sitting on the bus waiting till a certain time, and then they're driving to LPVAC. I don't know anything about a transfer of a bus. There's no extra kids that come on. They just pick them up early and then they get them over to LPVAC early. And the answer that Desiree got, or that we were getting from the lady that was in charge of this, is that the district didn't give LPVAC something early enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so if we don't get an answer
I
from
will.
the director of LPVAC and get this resolved before the next meeting, I'm gonna go to the thing that you and I talked about. I wanna have a meeting with him and I want this resolved.
Well, I already told him that you all want him to come to a school committee.
I think that would be wonderful if he came to us.
Very well.
So
But
we
that's
are-
a separate, that's one issue. The
We have another
transfer
issue.
issue, I think
Oh.
is the issue up in Granville. Because there are transfers that happen in Granville, both for, I believe, CTEC, but also with the other vocational schools. And those pickup times are even earlier. Those pickup times are like 5:10 in the morning, which is insane.
Yeah.
And that's a change from past years. So the big question is, what's
That
happening
could be a
this
bus
year?
driver short.
They don't have
And
any
why is
They're
it?
40 drivers short. 40. And they
Okay,
can't
so
get them
then,
anywhere.
if that's the case. Cause again, the information that we got, or Pam got from somebody. Is that when they called, it was because Southwick, Collin Granville didn't give them something.
Form on time.
In a form on time. Now, if it's transfers, okay, great. But if it's transfers, then that should be the answer that somebody gets if they call to find out what the heck's going on.
And if it's bus drivers, then that's the answer.
And that should be the answer.
They did talk about the forms and stuff like that, but you guys, we are not in the most dire of
No, no, no.
situations. You should have heard all of the other towns
I
and
did,
their
but if-
situations. They've had buses that have caught on fire twice.
The electric ones?
No.
Oh.
And nobody has the electric ones
And
yet.
Erica, look, if there's a
And-
reasonable answer or a reasonable reason as to why these things happen, then they need to be transparent and they need to be upfront.
Agreed.
If they're giving out incorrect information and they're blaming the district for something that is out of their control, that's what I have a problem with.
So the woman that is now responding to all the calls, she's new. And so she is a unicorn is what they have said, because she's trying to field all of these different calls.
Brand new position.
Right, and so, I don't know what she's saying. I've spoken to Alvin directly about this, and so, you know, when we're sitting around. the
Alvin is
table-
in charge of that entire setup, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
and.
so Alvin's known about this for over a month now.
And his answer to you is gonna be that we have a 40 driver short.
Well, that's unacceptable, because the
I
problem
agree.
that we have is the answers that his employee is giving out to parents.
Right,
that's
that's new
something-
information.
That's something that he could correct immediately.
Yeah, yep, he would,
He did.
he will, yeah,
Okay.
he's that
Well-
guy,
All
yeah,
right,
he's that guy that will do that. That's new information for me, I didn't bring that.
no, that's okay.
At that point in time, because his answer to me specifically was that now, a lot of their districts have 2 or 3 rounds, like, you know how we have 3 schools and there's 3 different drop-off times?
Yeah.
Like Wilbraham only has 2, and they have a lot more schools.
Yeah.
And so they're struggling because that's so many more buses that they have to have on the road at the exact same time. So they can't pull drivers from other places
Right.
to get them to go there. But he said that our issue was this transfer situation, and I don't know enough about that to try to like decipher or talk through it. So I was like, huh, well, that's something new.
So I don't think it's something new, but it might be related to whatever we have availability for drivers.
All I know is
Oh, we've
there-
done transfers up there.
Bus driver shortage across the state,
Yeah.
and Provost actually did send a letter to the governor.
Yeah.
Requesting for, we need you to get involved because
This is
we
ridiculous,
we can't, we don't have.
And
bus
the
drivers.
response to that was maybe they'll send in the National Guard to drive school buses.
Well, do it.
Hey, they're there.
So listen, I have to go too, but
No,
before I do, I want to skip to the bottom one, because I know that we mentioned just, last week. the
Legislative
legislative liaison, yes.
Who wants to go?
So while I would love to go, again, I can't this year, I have professional obligations that week. I looked at the schedule that came out. It looks like there are some really amazing workshops to be had on that Wednesday. I cannot take Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But I would strongly suggest somebody go. And look at some of those workshops related to small schools, related to DEI, related to rural aspects, that happen as soon as that Wednesday. I would love to go maybe next year, but it's just not in the cards for me this year, so I just needed to pass that along before I.
When is it, do you remember the date?
It is November, it's the, let's see, I got.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday,
Six through eight.
6 through 8, Wednesday.
Aren't you
Thursday,
gonna be
Friday,
there,
November
Eric, as a
6, 7,
vendor?
8.
Didn't you say
I
that?
am, so I mean, I could probably go to some of those.
Didn't you have a booth that you have to be in?
Yeah, but I have partners there. and we
Oh.
can-
You might, I mean, you might not be able to go as a formal, voting member or formal liaison.
Right,
But
right. I
even
could
if
just
you
go
spot
in.
checked some
Yeah.
of the,
Breakout
some of the
sessions.
breakout sessions that I thought were worthwhile to this particular committee, it might be nice to have another set of eyes there.
Did you say Wednesday there was some really good ones?
Yeah,
We have
Wednesday,
to do it the
Thursday.
Start to the afternoon.
Right, it doesn't start till Wednesday. Last year I went Thursday, Friday only. There's no way I can get more than Thursday, Friday.
Anybody else wanna go?
That'll work.
I gotta work too, but I mean, if we get to a point where nobody's able to go,
Cape Cod,
I
right?
think they caught, I mean, I may be able to get like a day. And go,
Thursday's workshops for us, good. It's
Oh.
Fridays, that's.
Yeah, and I was.
all right, I'll take a look at my schedule, we can deal with this in 2 weeks. But if Erica's gonna already be there, so if she can go, then that's a benefit.
Right.
And that'd be cheap for us to go, because you wouldn't even have, you don't even have to pay, she's already there.
Yeah.
No, it's a conference, they all,
Always.
I've gotta go to a conference the week before in Nashville, it starts on Sunday and goes through
Oh, that's
Wednesday.
for this, call, we do it on Friday, starting.
They're just way too,
I know.
it's too
Okay.
set up. All right, policy we talked about, Aaron, can we please send an official email to,
We got it. We
What?
sent it to you. John,
about what?
start plan?
No.
Oh, okay.
I wanna know when our policies are coming back.
Oh, that one, sorry.
We're all the
Oh,
way
I
through
didn't
I
know.
or J or whatever the heck we are, and we've got 0 back.
Oh, really?
So can we send a thing to Liz or to Mask or to whoever and find out where our policies are?
Didn't we pay for this?
Oh, yes, it's a massive amount of money. Well, I mean, relatively.
Well,
I
enough.
don't know, but we should be getting them back so we can vote them in and get them up.
Feedback.
ILT, buildings and grounds, we haven't had another one yet.
We just got the most of it.
Yeah, I know, I saw that.
That's what I was trying to.
I saw that. Yes, we got that. ILT. Anything? Everybody from ILT's gone.
They're gone.
All right, wellness. Everybody's well?
They're
Next.
gone.
Sped,
Nope.
No.
no. Technology, we don't have a technology, I don't, touch people, they're gone. Advisory committee, oh, we haven't got that person yet. We are having the advisory committee is going to be, meeting for their first meeting on the 21st, right here, 21st of October. Pam and I are just gonna make a quick little appearance there, welcome everybody, go through introductions. And then we will come back, they're gonna meet at 5, we're gonna have our, executive meeting at 5:30. We'll start them off, we're basically, this is gonna be their little committee, they're gonna determine how often they meet. They're gonna have a representative that, may be able to come to some school committee meetings, and then at a set time, we'll have a report from them with hopefully some interesting suggestions for us that we can take into account and see if we want to try to implement. We've got 2 students, we've got 2 teachers, we've got 2 or 3 community members, we've got a number of parents from each town. There's 17 people in total. So we're very hopeful that that committee will be productive. They'll be meeting in the libraries or the library here. But yeah, so hopefully that goes well. Capital committee, nothing right now, right? Not till January.
January.
Athletics, we had our first meeting, we had an update today about obviously soccer or hockey. Legislative, we just talked about. Public comment, there's nobody here. Old business. New business.
I know it's late,
Motion, oh, you got new business, what do you got?
very quick,
No, it's
and we
fine.
can address this at the next meeting if you choose. I just would like a little clarification on Mrs. Sullivan leaving.
Yeah.
In that position. And the position is now not being fulfilled because it's changing.
No, it's still, Aaron is doing the job.
I thought that when we had our last meeting, that Pam had asked about posting for the position. And then the school committee would be interviewing and appointing.
No, that's for like a business manager or a sped director. I appoint the director. If she was an assistant superintendent, yes, she'd be involved.
Okay.
But as it is the director of curriculum instruction, it's my appointee.
Okay. What has changed? Other than her being, and Mrs. Sullivan was the assistant superintendent?
Right,
So Aaron's gonna be fulfilling all the other duties,
yes,
grants, the whole thing.
taking over the whole job.
Okay,
But not, that was a title change that happened 3 years ago. It was something, Ms. Sullivan had just got her PhD.
Yeah.
And during, contract negotiations, the superintendent approached me.
Yeah.
Asking if we would consider, raising the level of responsibility for that position for her up to an assistant superintendent role. We brought it to the school committee. We approved for her that we would do that. Now that she has resigned and has moved on from the position, Jen took a look at that and determined that she didn't want to have an assistant superintendent level, which then takes it off our responsibility plate to hire and interview and do all that. And I don't want to speak for you, but in the essence of time, with respect to what's going on, she didn't feel that she needed to go out to either open the position. She had a very viable candidate internally, and she appointed that person into that role.
I was only asking because I wanted to make sure all the areas that Mrs. Sullivan had mentioned
Yes,
when we met with them were being covered.
they are.
That was.
Everything's being covered. The
Just-
main reason that we changed it is because of a distinct level authority that it's no longer going to be an assistant superintendent position. It's going to be a director of curriculum and development position, which then falls under the purview directly of the superintendent.
Okay,
So are we posting for a principal?
We did.
We have, and that post is up, and that's what they mentioned, we mentioned earlier,
Yeah,
that we've got 6 or 7 candidates. 3 or 4 of them are viable. And that we're gonna get a committee together and we're probably going to forego the paper review. We're just gonna go to see.
so we have a principal, we put a principal, the woman, Diane? Deanna up at the high school. And Emma is the principal now for Pescatelli.
Yes.
correct?
See, and I can just appoint her as well. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have, I can just appoint principals.
And then
Thing is, right now, I don't
yours
have
is
a
the only one
viable
that's open
candidate.
right now, correct?
Yeah, so right,
Right now I'm doing double.
Right, okay, I was confused on that too, because
Yeah.
everybody's moving and I was like, oh my god.
I know.
what's happening?
I don't know, from a financial standpoint, salaries, do we discuss
Same.
that?
it's
I
gonna,
did
it's
Big Rob.
gonna be a lateral, it's not gonna affect the budget.
All right,
We're gonna be fine with that.
We haven't changed any of the salaries and any of the movements.
no, I was just wondering because you had mentioned that there was a market rate adjustment or a stipend for the superintendent.
That was done with the previous person in the position.
Oh, okay,
It was a step in with her sort of progression in her career.
Not me.
no, I'm
Oh,
talking, okay,
Yeah,
I'm talking with Mrs. Sullivan.
Not a stipend, an increase.
yeah, it wasn't an stipend, it was an adjustment, it was a negotiated adjustment in her salary, and it came with.
Because she got the PhD.
She got a stipend for that.
Okay,
She had a stipend for it, or
Yeah.
part of her contract?
In her contract, she got a stipend. Like, in most jobs, because we don't have columns.
Yeah.
In most, for example, I know most people, if they have a doctorate, they get like a $4,500 differential for having a
Right.
doctorate. We didn't do that,
okay.
but like, that's something that they do for a lot of people if they have a certain education level, they'll give them a stipend.
Like a top feeling? They used to have a Quinville, right?
But we did, right.
Yeah.
Got rid of it, now we got it back. Well,
But
not the
yeah,
Quid bill,
to clarify everything, just to make it simple.
right,
We have Jen, since the position is now not gonna be an assistant superintendent role.
Yep.
Has the ability and the authority to appoint somebody into that role. She did.
okay,
So we opened up a principal's role.
Right.
For Powder Mill, that we have already opened the role. We've got a number of candidates that we're gonna bring to the table, and we're gonna have a couple, 2 or 3 school committee members, part of that group again, like we normally do. And then we will be hiring ultimately Jen will be hiring a principal for Powder Mill.
But that one I'm doing the process for because there's nobody that I was comfortable appointing him. I'm comfortable appointing, like, I already knew progressions
Yeah.
at some level in my head.
Yeah.
This one, no.
okay.
What about, I'm sorry, not to interrupt you,
Go
did
ahead.
we do what we needed to do during this meeting for Nick?
All done,
It's good.
it's all set.
I know it's getting like chain of command. You're the superintendent,
Yes,
you were out of the office,
yes,
we didn't have a business manager,
correct.
chain of command,
Would have been Jenny Sullivan.
okay. But we no longer have an assistant superintendent,
It would be Aaron.
I haven't, just so you know, Russ, I do have a assistant superintendent license.
right?
So I have that level of.
No, I'm just looking to clarify.
I'm just looking to clarify chain of command,
So we can you.
So for
Okay.
example, if it's something to do, I think Rob and I had this conversation, so if you had this issue with like facilities or transportation, you would go to a business manager, because they're the director of finance and operations.
thank you,
If you have a question about parent concern or a school concern, you would call the director of curriculum and
Correct.
instruction.
okay. That's what I was.
Okay, that's how, that's how.
Because I ran into that problem.
I know,
And
and you can
currently,
always call me, even if I'm on a sick day, I answer my phone.
and just so that we make sure that everybody understands the current chain of command, since we're missing a business office manager right now.
Yeah.
There were in the hierarchical setup, director of food services and director of buildings and grounds report to the business office manager and technology. Without a business office manager, they all report currently to the superintendent,
Okay,
and they all know that, correct? Okay,
all right,
so,
but still in case of an issue.
yes,
I can still contact the facilities or buildings and grounds, whatever the proper title is.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
If you run into a situation where just send Jen an email, just saying, hey,
Yeah.
look, you weren't here. I just reached out to this
I
person.
know, I didn't want to bother, I
No, no,
thought you were.
it's all good.
I was. I don't ever take sick days,
Well,
I was.
I didn't want to bother somebody when they're sick, especially on a minor issue.
It really wasn't.
Well,
Okay,
it was made into a month.
are we good?
Yes,
Yes.
I apologize.
Don't worry
It's a
about it.
great
Hey,
question.
listen, it's okay.
You're not the only one who has
Good,
them, I'm glad you asked.
You okay? We're all done. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
No.
So moved.
You want to-
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor to adjourn the meeting? All right, Aaron, let the record show. Are you gonna vote yes or no? Whatever you put.
During the meeting.
Yeah, we did. We went for it. Record, motion passes 4-0. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Miss Willard, have you heard of